My name is Zach Sargent, and today I'm going to be showing you how to get started with ITOM visibility in ServiceNow. This is not an official ServiceNow project, but I will be dropping it out to our community page instead so that folks can follow along and see what's up. So I've already got the plugins enabled. You can do this if you haven't done so yet with a request in Hi. And I've got the mid server installed. So I have a mid server set up in an AWS environment. This is not a special mid server. It doesn't have assume role or any other magical capabilities yet. And we'll be covering that in a later video as well. But for now, it's just a vanilla mid server with a regular Windows operating system and the regular mid server install. So you can see our documentation for setup of that. And then what I'll be covering in this video is how to set up the basics of cloud discovery. So the service account setup and what you need to put into the service account. And then what we need to do to set up event-based discovery for AWS so that we can keep this up to date in a more real-time fashion as you can do with cloud discovery. Okay, let's get started. Here we are logged into my New York instance, and as I bring up the Discovery homepage, I'm presented with this lovely new walkthrough of how to get set up. So let's go through Discover Cloud Resources, since I know that's what I want to do. And it's going to bring me through this little wizard that says, hey, let's set up a service account. So from a provider perspective, we're going to get started with Amazon. I have a schedule name. Let's call this standalone AWS. This is a standalone environment. I'm not sharing it with anybody else. Add account. So here I'm going to have to add in some AWS credentials. So let's go over to the AWS console. And here under Identity and Access Management, we're going to create a user. Now I'm going to spend another video on what all the minimum permissions are and how to set up a mid server with an assume role capability and some other things that we have that are newer features over the last couple of versions of ServiceNow. But just to get us started in this environment, I'm just going to add a user. We're going to call this AWS Discovery User. We'll get with the times. I'm sorry, that's my bad. Visibility user. Okay. And I'm going to want programmatic access. It doesn't have to have console access. So next, I can add this user to a group. I can copy permissions for an existing user. I'm going to do that for right now. And I'm just going to copy my own user permissions. Here I can define a tag. So, I can say this is a test key for video. And do next. Okay, this is what I've got so far. So there's my username, my access type. Let's create the user. And I can download this CSV. Here's my access key. So this is what I want. I'm just going to copy this access ID over to a notepad, and then I'm going to take this secret key and I'm going to copy that over to this notepad. Now, those are two of the pieces that I need for my credentials. I also need this account ID. So you can see here at the top, I've got this blurred out, but this account number is something I'm going to need. So I'm going to copy that over. And those are the three pieces I need to get started. Okay, now let's go back to ServiceNow. Name, this is my standalone AWS environment. My account ID without the dashes. For credentials, I'm going to need new credentials. So again, I'm going to use that same name. Okay, so that's going to tell me that's this set. The access key, is this top part. And the secret access key is this part. And I will commit that. Okay, now let's test the account. So this is going to go out through the mid server and look for the AWS APIs and submit this key and see what it can see. So we're going to validate the service account through this test. No! Go to discovery status. Okay, so after getting that error message, I broke into the ECC queue. For those of you who are familiar with ITOM, I came in here to do a little troubleshooting, and it had the processing of the output, but it didn't have an input back. And I was curious, it said minute or less usually, but you can see here that there was about 3 minutes that passed. So it all looks like it succeeded properly. So I'm not worried anymore, but it was a little weird that it took 3 minutes. So here you go. Okay, let's go back to our discovery setup. And let's go back to Discover Cloud Resources. Let's see if we can recover this wizard. Uh-oh, doesn't look like we can. So we're gonna have to put this in again. Standalone AWS. Is there an account here? Yes, there is. I can select an account. That's great. All right, so I didn't lose anything. We have our test for this account. Account validation is successful. Now, is this a master account? It is not a master account. So no. So let's make sure that this is off. So this is a new feature. Well, it's not that new, I guess, but this is a feature where if I put master account information into this, I can discover sub-accounts. So again, I'm going to get it more into IAM roles and minimums and other things in another video to talk about various permissions and how to manage permissions in AWS, and this is one of those things. But for now, again, this is not where I'm going, so we're just going to move forward. So it says discovering data centers. That's much better. See how quick that was? All right. So do I want to discover all the data centers listed below, or do I just want to dig into a few of them? I'm just going to go with US West 1 and 2. Oops. Because I know that's where I am keeping things. Oh, okay. So sorry, that works backwards. I'm going to remove everything that is not in there. Okay. And those are the only two that I want to discover. Okay, virtual machines. Automatically discover virtual machines by IP address. Discover additional information about the VM, including running applications. Yes. We can auto-select by mid, but yes, this is discovering into the VMs. So now if I discover virtual machines in AWS, this is going to let me dive into their innards, into the operating systems. Create a schedule. Let's do daily at 3 a.m. Pacific time. That sounds great. Cancel if longer than a day. Yeah, I'm going to cancel if it's longer than 5 hours, to be frank, because there's no reason it should be in this environment. This is a pretty small environment that I'm using. Okay. And now we have started discovering things on a regular schedule. I just wanted to spend a second showing you on the scripted REST page that here's where the cloud events come in. So scripted REST says I can define various API endpoints within the system. And here we have an API endpoint that is accepting messages from AWS. And then that's how this event-based discovery works. So if you wanted to know more about that, you could dive into that. That's not really where we're headed. So right now I need to create a user. So there's a user that is going to be what we need to get event-based discovery connecting from the outside. So we'll call this AWS config. I'm going to use LastPass here to create a password, maybe. There we go. And we'll copy this guy, fill it in. I'm going to put that over on my notepad with my other passwords. And let's save this user. All right, so now I have a user, but I need to assign a role here. So this user can't really do anything. So what I want to do is oh, wow. Okay. So you have to go to SN, CMP, event, Cloud Event Integration. Okay. So this is in the docs. If you go to docs.servicenow.com, it will give you this role in terms of how to set up for AWS config. All right. Now I have the role. I'm ready to rock. So let's go back over here to our AWS console. The first thing we need to do here is to set up a new topic. So let's do standalone as our new topic. All right. Standalone. Standalone. I don't have to really dive into any of these options. Create the topic. And now I have to create subscriptions to this topic. Now this is where things get a little bit tricky. So if I go to create a subscription here, you can see that I have my topic on. We're going to pick a protocol of HTTPS, and I have an endpoint. Now this endpoint is outlined in the documentation. So if you go to docs.servicenow.com, it'll show up there. But the other thing that's interesting to know about this endpoint is that you kind of have to construct the URL. So I did this ahead of time using the password that we had created with our user. And so this URL now looks like this. So it's pretty large thing to just type in there. I highly recommend using a notepad to construct it. And I say that as someone who didn't get it constructed right the first couple times. All right, so now what's happening is we'll move this into, your subscription moves into a pending confirmation state. And if we did everything right, if you have the right user permissions on this user and it's able to authenticate into your instance, this will go from pending to subscribed. So let's go back and look at our topics. And here we have confirmed. Okay. So now that we have that confirmed, if I go to the ServiceNow page, this is a table looking for cloud events. It's a SNCMP cloud event. So if you go there, you can see this empty table, usually when you get started. And if I refresh this, I should have a subscription confirmation. Okay, so now this event has come into this queue and been processed. Now that we've confirmed that we're getting information from that notification service, what we need to do is go back here to add the config service to it. Okay, so if I go to config, need to make sure of a couple of things out here under settings. So you want to make sure recording is on. When you first come to this, recording will be off, but you need it to be on. Under record types to record, we're going to record all resources for this region, but you can actually do a couple of different things here to specify types or use an IAM setup for it. We're not going to do that for now. And then you can choose a bucket for your account or do some other stuff here for other types of things. But here is the key piece, the Amazon SNS topic. And what I want is standalone. And now I should start sending events to that topic, which you saw that we have subscribed. And we can set up another couple of things in here, but the config events are the key pieces here. So after a couple of days of running cloud environment and discovering it and making changes and so on, this is what we have in our discovery homepage. So I'm going to click into these errors real quick just to kind of show what's back here, so you're not like, hey, he just glossed over that. Credential errors, 11 errors. This just means that I have virtual machines that I can't get into, that there are elements in the cloud that I can't take a deeper look at the OS level. I can grab the metadata for them, but I'm not able to really spider into them with our IP-based discovery. In terms of what the resources are that we discovered out there, 1,197. If I want to take a look at them in detail, we have a nice chart here from the dashboard that gives you a good breakdown. So hopefully this is something that you have found useful, how to set up your cloud discovery with AWS and event-based discovery as well. Thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting ServiceNow's ITOM products. Next time, we'll explore cloud insights.